welcome to Horror Queen Film Interviews. Obviously, you've seen the channel, you see, pretty much what it's about. We are drag performers based in San Antonio, Texas. I've been doing drag here for about 9 years, was voted second best drag queen in the city in 2021. And Sélah is one of my longest friends. We've been friends for maybe about 14 years already.
Hey,
Do you love the queens? Do you go to drag shows and stuff?
oh, I've been to plenty. It's been a long time though.
I love that.
Basically, I hope this interview is so queer and gay.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna be really queer and gay.
911, what are you reporting? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to meet with us. We have a couple of questions that we're trying to get to the bottom of.
Oh, okay.
We've been trying to figure out the Outwaters for like 2.5 months already.
I'll probably disappoint you a little bit with my answers, but you could
Oh, I
try.
love that. I love the discretion too. Our first question that we have is where and when did the idea for the Outwaters first come into play, and how long has this journey been in creating it?
It didn't really feel too difficult until I started editing and finding new ideas and realizing the potential for all the different ways that the story could be told. Because I filmed a lot of stuff, all of it felt like the movie, but due to the nature of the threat and what was happening and how it's captured by the characters, there's just so many possibilities of how to tell the story. So that was what was difficult, was like trying to pick out which ways, which edits, which scenes going where like felt the best, and so that was what was difficult. And I remember coming up for the with the concept like in Bridgewater, New Jersey, my mom's living room. I was watching this Bigfoot um found footage movie called Willow Creek with Ange, who's in the movie. And we were watching that, and it just got me like inspired because I particularly liked that one. It was the first one in a long time I'd seen that was like felt kind of real and actually found. So I remember talking with Ange about like, oh, like, you know what, let's actually do it. Let's go make one in my living room. But the movie started
What
with
year was that?
shit if I know. When did Willow Creek, like 2014 or something, or 15. So just talking, thinking for a couple years, working at Greenpeace, being gay, and slowly the movie started forming and a script started forming in my head over years. Just basically like ideas that stick. If I have a million ideas for the when I'm in like movie brain, but then some of them stick and last around for days and weeks and months, and so that's what became the movie. And then once we're out there, like finding all types of new shit, because of this, the nature of it is like so many possibilities.
How many I guess how much footage in total did y'all have?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Sounds
haven't
sounds
even
a lot.
actually necessarily. I don't know that I've seen all of it.
Oh,
Like
wow.
when I was editing file VL624, I was going back through stuff like old footage that I hadn't seen in like years. I was like, oh, why didn't I use this? You know what I mean? So I found some things that I mean, at least I don't remember like ever watching them or filming them.
And when you released it, did you have the intentions always to put it out in that order?
Well, I didn't come up with this. So there was a gay scene, like a gay scene or a scene where it's very clear I'm gay too. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty clear I'm gay if you're like queer.
Yeah, that's definitely the scene that had us real bitter. We were just like, oh my gosh, yes. And then this bitch, when y'all broke up, she's just like, yes.
Oh no. Well, in the original Outwaters, there was always going to be a scene where I was, it's very slice of life, and there's just going to be one scene where I'm like pillow talking with a boy that I like and whatever. But it was just going to be a slice of life, and then he was going to disappear. And it just always felt like out of place. It just felt like there was so much random things in the first 40 minutes of the Outwaters, and it was already intentionally slow and so like that was just like one more thing that felt like it needed more of its own story.
Yeah, I'm
But I
glad it was its own story because it definitely was a great standalone for sure.
think Card Zero I filmed after the Outwaters. Like Card Zero, I only filmed it like 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Yeah. So yeah, it's just all my cringy stuff.
Your cringiness, I
All the
live.
stuff that I'm insecure about. And I've never made a movie like that before that's like really kind of about my shit. You know what I mean? That directly. So that was uncomfortable.
We love to see it. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Like you should have seen us. We were just like, oh my gosh, did we really need to watch that tonight? We were all triggered.
This film
Yeah.
especially.
I was just like, that broke my heart.
So for me, it's almost like it's a little almost like, oh my God, the character Robbie is like so silly, like getting all these ideas and stuff. It's like so soon, girl, like slow down. Shit.
About how much percentage do you say that you related with your character, Robbie?
Oh, a lot.
Quite a lot, yeah.
I mean, it's funny. So I was um showing my friend Card Zero recently. Um, and I was like, oh, this is me like when I'm 20. Like I'm so much better than this now. So much better
Yeah,
than this. I'm
no,
like real
totally
chill.
relatable.
Yeah, and then like the next night I was literally saying lines from like Card Zero in like a situation. I was like, oh my God, like I am my movie and my movie is me. But I am not as cringy as to get a promise ring for somebody. And like, I mean, I know that was kind of
That
cute.
was so sweet. I was just like, oh, my entire heart.
It was sweet, but it was perhaps the wrong moment. Maybe a little soon.
Perhaps. Perhaps.
But it's been nice to see people actually like connecting with that. Doesn't make me feel so
There's a
alone.
lot of vulnerability for sure in Card Zero. Completely different than the Outwaters. And that's what I was talking with my drag daughter Tarantino about. I was just like, because she was just like, I wish some of this was in the Outwaters. And I was like, I don't know, Tarantino, like I don't really feel like it would have made sense. It would have left us with so many questions. Like,
No, Outwaters is its yeah, and I understand like Outwaters is its own thing and it's supposed to be kind of vapory and like elusive. And that's how I always wanted it. And it was made first and it was made without the intention of adding these two things. So that's the movie. But I think that Card Zero like was naturally born and the epilogue, I think they were both naturally born out of it. And I think when you put them all together, it adds this like kind of love thing to the whole thing. And it's kind of like even more cosmic, like human thing that's definitely like a part of me. How I think about the world and love and death and all that stuff. So I like it exactly the way it is, like in terms of the three pieces. It's been cool. It's actually like people are liking a lot of people seem to like them that didn't even like the Outwaters, which is nice.
we loved them. We watched them and did the review. That was it's so crazy too because doing the review of Card Zero and File, that was my first time doing a movie review completely sober. Like I've been sober for maybe about 2.5 weeks, dry from everything. It's different, right? It's a little bit different.
It's a little more serious.
Yeah.
We'll watch it with
Which
a
one
little bit
you
more.
said when you watched Card Zero and that's the first day you were doing it like sober? Or was it the
Yeah.
Outwaters?
When we
That's
went to go see the
special.
Outwaters, we went to New Braunfels, so maybe about 45, 50 minutes away from where we live in San Antonio. And we had a whole party in the car, like right before we walked in the theater.
I saw that looked
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
No,
no,
I
totally.
immediately was like, oh, this makes me happy.
So, question number two, when did you, I know you probably get this a lot, but I have not
Well,
heard any of you
I'll
answer.
try to
But when,
answer it differently and not canned. So
okay.
it'll be fun.
When did you first realize that you wanted to be a filmmaker? And did you go to school for it? Slash, do you have any acting experience? Because the acting in all three films, I must commend you. It was believable, relatable, like just felt like Sélah was saying it really felt like we were there with y'all.
Thank you. It's weird because it's not like acting where we're all studying Uta Hagen and respect for acting and like putting together a character, so just trying to actually be natural. And a lot of times we are just being ourselves, but then obviously there's a lot of times where we're being ourselves, but having to act and talk about shit that's not real. But so Me, it's kind of easy. The stuff that was just harder for me was like all the shit in the second half of the movie where I'm wandering around like, real cringy, like mumbling to myself. And that was like I couldn't tell if it was working or not. So I just kept doing it until I felt super weird. And I felt like the weirder I felt, the more it made sense for this movie. But I studied acting for 4 years while I went to film school in New York City. I went to School of Visual Arts. And during the whole time I was in film school, I also took an acting class at Black Nexus through that school. And my acting teacher is Susan Batson. She's friends with Spike Lee, and she worked on a lot of Spike Lee's films, and she's Nicole Kidman's acting coach. At least up until recently, I don't know if she still uses her, but Susan Batson's like amazing. And I did my final scene was, did you see Magnolia?
Um,
Oh, you have to see this movie, Magnolia. Well, I did this like whole monologue for Magnolia, which doesn't, if you haven't seen it, but you should see it. Magnolia. Anyway, yes, I studied
Definitely.
acting, but I don't remember shit from that. Other than it was like
You lived in New York for a while?
I lived in New York for 4 years in Manhattan, and then I lived for like a year in Brooklyn.
I've been to New York twice. I did the Bushwick Drag Festival twice. Are you familiar with that? It's
No,
over in Brooklyn, like Queens.
I was just like in Barracuda when I lived in New York, just like, crushing on this bartender named Raphael. And then like the one night I was gonna get his number, my friend Nancy, who is the flight attendant voice in the Outwaters, she got so drunk in the bathroom, and he was like, "Can you ask your friend to leave, please?" It's like, fuck. I was gonna make my move
Never happened.
for a little otter twink.
Yeah. Sounds like us, right?
Let's
Guys,
like your dick first.
Okay. So question number three. How did you meet the composer Salem?
Salem Belladonna.
And what was the process like when creating the soundtrack? Did y'all work together closely? And what were the influences slash inspiration that you kind of gave her?
She and I met working at Greenpeace together. So interesting, like Greenpeace, the environmental organization, Save the Whales. I worked there for 9 years, right up until the pandemic shut us all down. And that's where I met Scott and Michelle, Salem, Arrow, who's the guitar player in the beginning, um, and a bunch of other people. Most of them are from Greenpeace. And so I met Salem towards the end of Greenpeace. She was one of the last people working there with me when we got shut down for the pandemic. And I knew she did music. And I had placeholder songs. One of them was when I was dancing in the kitchen, and it was like Megan Trainor or some shit, something, or like there's some like maybe some Goldfrapp, I don't know. Um, and another one was like this choral music when we were driving through the tunnel that my character's like playing on the radio to make it more
Yeah.
cinematic. So I was like, hey, do you think you could write like a pop dance song and like a choir piece? And inspiration wise, I sent her like the songs that I was actually listening to in the kitchen, so she could at least get the same beat. So like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
totally. I know
Um,
my drag daughter Tarantina was saying she was just like super like that part where with the tunnel and like the orchestra and everything, like that part stuck out to her the most because she was like, everything was really fucked up throughout the entire film. She was just like, but the part that really scared me is when they're going through the tunnel and everything's kind of spinning and it's just really loud and it's just she was just like that part really scared me the most. She was just like throughout like the whole thing. That's like the part that scared me the most. I was just
well,
like, I
Robbie
definitely
Zacharach apologizes for blasting that music from those speakers, girl. For the choral piece, I sent her Candyman, like Philip Glass's score for Candyman, and just some stuff like that, stuff that I really love. So she can at least get a vibe. But I mean, she's like brilliant. When I got that back, I was like, holy shit, I lucked out making friends with Sélah. She's great. And she did all the music for my upcoming movie, Tinsman Road. So that's really exciting. All this like beautiful piano music. How are you?
so interested in it. When, like, I need to know when it's gonna come out, when we could see it. Like, I know
Oh,
it premiered at Unnamed, right?
Unnamed Footage Festival last month. Yeah, it was like a work in progress cut. It's like entirely too long. I haven't had time to finesse it at all. So I'm gonna re-put the whole movie back together, look through all my footage because once again, I haven't even seen all the footage from it.
Mhm.
But I'm excited about it. It's a much more straightforward film. I feel like a lot more people are gonna like this than like the Outwaters. It's not it's much more accessible, but hopefully still art, hopefully.
You do all the editing yourself?
Oh yes,
Damn.
right here. That I'm hoping will get released or get distribution and released sometime by the end of the year.
Really looking forward to seeing it. Like, does it have any influence with Bigfoot or like what? Like, can you tell us a little bit of what it's about?
Well, it's another found footage movie, but it was shot on mini DV, so it's like old school. And it's my character this time I'm Robbie Lyle, and I'm way more Jersey and like a little bit more Guido. Um, but I like go home and move back in with my mom, and a few years after my sister disappears, and my mom thinks that my sister's like haunting the house, and she believes in signs and angels and all that shit, and I don't. But to humor my mom, she wants me to make a documentary about like the angels. So I start humoring her and filming, but what I really start to do is investigate what happened to my sister in this like amateur mini DV way. So it's like a movie full of characters, and it's more of a drama mystery horror. Still find it in the horror section, but it's much more like drama mystery horror with
Is
characters.
it gonna be set in like now times, or is it gonna be like
Like vague, but it's like 2002, 2003, which is the year the camera that I used was made. So I had to take away take away all the cell phones and anything that looked too modern. And that was fun. I loved that shit, like going to thrift stores all in New Jersey. 'Cause it was during the pandemic in New Jersey. So I'd get out of the house and like go thrifting and find like old phones and shit.
It's like a drag queen's favorite thing to do,
It's
honestly.
honestly, it's my favorite thing to do for my movies is go shopping for the clothes and for the props.
So, question number four, we have it's like sharks.
Mm.
We'll start there. Sharks. I have sharks, correlation to the film, question mark. Favorite, is that like your favorite animal? Can you elaborate a little bit more? Are there, is it shark aliens? Can you just like kind of explain
Well, I'm not gonna
more?
tell you what it is, girl, but what I'll say is that whole area and a lot of the Mojave was covered by shallow seas in the Paleozoic era. So that all used to be underwater, and you can find fossils of like sea creatures there still. Um, so that's all I'll give with that.
King
The
Triton,
Outwaters,
shark
yeah,
of the
all that
world.
whole shit used to be underwater. And in terms of sharks, I've just always loved sharks. Jaws was my first favorite movie. Jaws is probably the movie that made me want to make movies. I also it made me love sharks. I have like five versions of the novel, like with different covers and oh, so
Yeah, we noticed it in Card Zero when you're in the tub and there's like the sharks.
bunch of sharks in my tub right now. I just took a bath before this interview so I could like get fresh. So I could look like a Jersey Shore Guido. But
I live? I
I
was gonna
loved
say
it.
you look glowy.
Uh-huh. She's glowing today.
Uh-huh.
It's because it's amber light. Always been like a bucket list thing for me to get killed by a shark in a movie. I always want to have one of those scenes where I'm like swimming for my life and a dorsal fin comes behind me and I like get dragged down. So I just kind of like in a different way made that bucket list dream come true for myself in a different kind of way.
Most like twisted mindfuckery nightmare way possible.
But I did it. If
Love
anyone's
that.
listening though, I would like to get killed by a shark in a more traditional scene.
Definitely. Okay. So our next question is, how did your friends slash co-stars react when first hearing about what the film was going to be about?
I don't
Like,
know. They just
did
trusted me. Like they didn't even really know what we were doing, really. They just knew it was like a horror movie. It was found footage and it was gonna be like Blair Witch Project. It was in the desert, and I basically explained to them like the little backstories of our characters, very light. And I kind of kept them in the dark about what was gonna be happening. I mean, they didn't even really know what was happening until they saw it. I mean, they knew that we had some screaming scenes, they knew that they were gonna be covered in blood, but they didn't really know what was happening. Which is, our characters didn't know what was happening either. I knew them.
what a trip to put your friends through.
It was most like we had fun. It's Ange like freaked out though because I did tell her that I was gonna fuck with them out there, right? That's what they did in Blair Witch Project, but they told them they were going to. So I did the same thing. I told them I was gonna fuck with them, but then I'm like a procrastinator. I never actually got anything organized to fuck with them. So when we got out there, there was nothing. I wasn't fucking with them, but everything that happened that like there was a car in the distance a couple times, and she was freaking out. We got into like a Real Housewives style fight in the kitchen of the Airbnb because she thought I was like fucking with them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
That's
great.
it. I live.
Scott should
Yeah.
have Scott should have recorded it, but yeah.
It's funny because I actually showed my mom and my stepdad the Outwaters like 2 or 3 days ago for the
Oh,
first time. Like after like them hearing me talk about it nonstop, I finally showed them. We finally found the time to watch it. And my mom actually has a question, if I can
oh,
bring
okay.
her in. Mom, come
Mommy.
here, come ask your question. When I showed you the Outwaters and at the end of it you were shook
Oh,
and then
hey,
you asked
girl.
me.
Hi.
Hey.
I stayed quiet, like still trying to soak the movie in. And then I was like, why did he make that?
I don't know, girl. I mean, I wanted to make something fucked up and actually scary. Like to me, it's not gonna be scary for everybody because people brains are brains are weird. But I just really wanted to make something like fucking actually horrific. I think a lot of horror movies aren't horrific. You know what I mean?
I kind of picked up some things like temptation and like the horrors of
Delving into.
temptation and diving into things like when that part with the lady with the girl.
And in
Um,
the breast
yes,
facility.
and like and like other parts too. Like like I took some of that out of the movie.
Yeah, that whole stuff, that whole all that stuff's like a soup of I don't know where it comes from inside me, instinct and instinct and memory or this your just imagination. But that's all like a soup of shit in my brain, or like just ideas that I thought could be scary that seemed to gel with But yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
no.
I made it
My
because
mom was completely quiet. She goes, Ryan, why did he make that? Like, just like horrified.
my mom probably thought the same thing after I showed her the first time. She was like,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Actually, like generally pretty like nice and jovial.
For answering that.
Oh, no problem.
Thank
But
you.
also, I
Thanks for
just wanted
coming
to make a
in.
movie.
Yes, it was good. It was interesting.
Thank
It made
you.
you like want to keep looking at it like what's gonna happen next. Like
And
that
my
kind
mom doesn't even like horror movies too, so I made sure she sat down through the entire thing and watched it with me. And
Thanks for
I liked
sticking
it.
with it, girl.
Sélah, welcome back. So, okay, next question that we have. How has the reception of the Outwaters been for you as a director? Did you expect it to get this much traction? Because in my opinion, I feel like it's on its way to becoming a cult film.
Thank you. I kind of did. Like, that's why I made it. Like, I was trying to make something that would last. I mean, of course, you never know, but I was really trying to make something that was like unique and um, I took as long as it felt like it needed. I took years to try to make it something I felt like could be um lasting, especially once the film was like complete and I had all the scenes in and I started test screening it for people that didn't know me. Um, I started to get a little more confident with that. So, I mean, it's honestly, I only expected it to be in like, my goal for it was to be in like a theater in LA and a theater in New York for like a week. So, that the fact that it opened today in London is
Yeah,
like,
that's insane.
I just got like a good reviews from the Financial Times of London and like stuff like that. So that it is more than I expected in terms of I thought it was going to be like a over time people would slowly hear about
Oh
it.
no, you're going viral. That's what I appreciate. And it's really cool to see indie films kind of getting the attention that they deserve, like especially in today's age, because there's a time right there's definitely a time where horror was kind of like on the back burner and they were just like, it got kind of boring for a little bit.
For sure.
I try to spice it up a little bit.
Mhm.
We can tell.
Definitely. How was the reception over at Unnamed Footage Festival?
To Tinsman, a
Mhm.
lot more people came up to me and said they liked it than came up to me and said they liked the Outwaters last year. So it was good.
Confused and trying to process everything from the Outwaters.
No, like I just know that more people will like this one, which makes sense because it's just more accessible. It's just you can follow it. You know what I mean? It's still hopefully like interesting and artful and all those things, but it's definitely a straightforward, more of a straightforward story that you don't get like lost and annoyed at. Plus the flashlight's a little bigger, so that helps.
So I like where does the name Tinsman Road comes from? Because I noticed there was an Easter egg in Card Zero where you have a sign in your bedroom, right? Street
Um,
sign,
yeah,
divider
actually,
sign.
that wasn't even like intended to be an Easter egg. That's just where my Tinsman Road sign lives in my house. So my dad when I was like 10, like grabbed that street sign off of the street post or whatever you call it, because he thought it was a good name. He liked the way Tinsman Road sounded. And so I always had that sign growing up in my room. And I wrote my first short story that I remember was called Tinsman Road. And I even made a movie poster called Tinsman Road, like when I was like 10 or 11, which I have somewhere. So it came from, that's another one, like the Outwaters came from the title, and that's where the story was born from. I thought of the title first. Tinsman Road's been like in my head as a movie I wanted to make since I was like 10 years old. And the story just formed naturally while thinking about it over the past few years.
How does it feel like when you finally like feel like you completed something that's like been in your head forever?
Well, this was the first time I really did that. So it feels, I would think it would feel better, but I'm so busy with all this like random, like the social media and editing trailers and,
Does that get kind of annoying like with film critics, or have you like found a way to like tune it out?
um, I mean, totally get why some people hate it. And I always expected that. I do get annoyed when people state things as fact, but that are not true. um, like in their reviews or their letterbox comments or on Twitter, when they just say something that's blatantly, I know is not true, but then they say it very confidently like it is, that annoys me. Because I try not to do that like in life, just like make statements that are false. And then I'm not talking about people who have criticism of the movie or don't like it. That's fine. Like I hate lots of movies too. I'm talking about people that are kind of like assholes or like really angry that they saw it. Like, shut up, get over it. Go see another movie then.
I've seen a lot of when I was trying to look up more theories on the Outwaters, I was on Reddit kind of looking, and I saw, a lot of people like they're like people today they're kind of like unhinged with their criticism. Like it comes like you said, it comes off very asshole-ish.
Lots of like direct messages to me, like how much they fucking like. Someone send me a direct message. Bitch about it on Twitter. Don't send me like a direct message about how like lots of people like it too. So that's always nice.
How were you able to like distort the voice? Like where did the voice come from? Like I know the voice does show them. Like where like how were you able to kind of achieve that effect of
Well, I don't know.
was
It's,
that you or
I don't know.
no? Okay.